All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the final video for section 4 of chapter 2 of your McGraw-Hill notes covering deductive reasoning. Once again, we're going to start here on this flow chart where we are discussing which law of deductive reasoning we should be trying to use. It all comes down to the givens. The first two of the three statements in the argument are givens. If those givens are both conditional statements, then we will be checking the law of syllogism. If they are not, if only the first one is an if-then statement and the second one is not, we can check the law of detachment. Either way, it has to match that pattern shown in the flowchart exactly. And if it doesn't, it is an invalid argument. So, we are going to start on this example from your notes, which says, draw a valid conclusion from the given statements if possible. State which law you used. If no valid conclusion exists, write no valid conclusion. So to determine which law we need to be checking, we need to look and see what we've got. Our first statement is an if-then statement and is always an if-then statement. But the second statement is not an if-then. It is not a conditional. It is just a statement, which means we are checking the law of detachment. Remember that the law of detachment must follow the pattern if P, then Q. P is true for the second statement, which would allow you to draw the conclusion that Q is also true. So we have to look and see what we've got. Okay? It has to match our pattern. So our first statement is the if-then. So P is you are 16 years old. And Q is you can apply for a driver's license. Our second statement, in order to match the law of detachment, must refer back to P, which means it can name a specific person, but it must refer back to that person being 16 years old. So we look at the second statement, which says Nate is 16 years old. That does match the second statement, that P is true. Okay, it has to match that. That allows us to then say, okay, well, if the conditional is true, which it's a given, so it's true, and P is true, what that means is Q is also true, which allows us to draw a conclusion. It allows us to state that Nate can apply for a driver's license. That is the valid conclusion that we can reach. Probably should spell license right since I'm putting this on YouTube. And that is reached using the law of detachment. That fulfills the directions. We have drawn the correct conclusion, and we have stated which law we used. Since there is a valid conclusion, the third part of the directions does not matter. Next example, and I believe the last example for our video today, we have two givens, once again, 1 and 2. So we ask ourselves, are those givens if-then statements? And they are. Both are if-then statements, which means we're checking the law of syllogism. Okay? Because both statements are conditional statements. So we check the law of syllogism, which must say, if P, then Q. If Q, then R. And that would allow us to draw the conclusion, if P, then R. It has to match that pattern exactly. Okay? It cannot deviate at all from that pattern. It must perfectly match that pattern. So when we're looking at the givens, our first statement is if P, then Q. So P is Katie finishes her chores, and Q is she will get her allowance. The second statement then has to start with Q. It has to say Katie gets her allowance, which it does, so we fit the pattern. Then she will go shopping. So since it matches the pattern, there is a valid conclusion that can be drawn. We would say if Katie finishes her chores, which is P, if P, then R, she will go shopping. This is a valid argument based on the law of syllogism. So hopefully these videos are helpful in helping you figure out deductive reasoning. I'm pretty sure that's it, and it is. Okay, so that's it for section 2-4. Thank you for your time. Don't forget, flowchart can be very helpful.